What is up, everybody? Josh Tapp here again, and welcome back to the Lucky Titan podcast. And today we are here with Shaina Weisinger. I'm super excited to have her here because when she put her bio, her team put her bio and everything into our calendar, and I was looking through it, this is one of the ones that just stood out because the methodology that she's teaching and what she really helps people with is to help them repurpose the content they've already made to build a year's worth of content. Now, if you're in our space, in the information space, that's like music to our ears, right? Hey, if I could get this done in a couple hours or pay somebody to do it, please take it off my plate. So she is the founder of Repurpose House, and I am so excited to have her here. So Shaina, say what's up to everybody and let's hop in.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. And Josh, thanks for the stellar intro. I appreciate it. Yeah, one of the things that I've been really kind of on the parade train promoting is that it doesn't take constantly chasing content and chasing creating content for all of these social media platforms. Like, it's a monster. People see, people like Gary Vee and 9,000 posts a day that all seem unique. And ultimately, like, I think what people forget is he has a team of 30 people following him around doing this for him. I mean, all 30 aren't following him. That would be asinine, but he has a team of people just dedicated to his social media game. So like, don't be discouraged when you start to see that kind of content flow out of people like that, because it's unrealistic for the vast majority of us. Even for like larger companies, generally speaking, your budget's not going to go only to social media content. One thing that I can say is that in most cases, you can't deposit likes. So unless you're like a YouTuber that's just, you've got tons of sponsorships and stuff like that, ultimately, like, we're all creating content to have some sort of call to action, ROI, things like that. You're either sending them to a course, you're sending them to an intensive, you're sending them to something. But the problem that people are running into when they're putting content on social media is that part of it isn't really in mind a lot of the time. It's just content for content's sake, right? It's like a selfie video about, what you were doing that day. Nobody cares. So let's talk about the content you've already created. And then also some really strategic content pieces you can create that will scale for you. Because the difference between creating content and not really knowing where it's all going to live and creating content that this one piece of content is going to live in 300 places strategically, that will make your content creation process super simple, very short and efficient. And then that you have filled the gaps on your social media calendar, on your LinkedIn articles, on your blogs. I mean, there's just so many different things that you can utilize it for. So from the top, let's talk about content that you already have that can be repurposed.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Right? Because I mean, if you got it, flaunt it, right? So let's talk about the 3 different types of content. We've got video, audio, and the surprising one that people don't really realize that you can repurpose for social is text. So first, the most obvious is video. This kind of stuff. When you interview people, when you have one-on-one conversations, it's great for cross promotion because you're going to tag them and they're going to share it. Anybody who's looking at your stuff has likely already seen you and know who you are. But if you start tagging people in that stuff, they're going to comment, share. Anybody who does that, it's also going to populate on their feeds on Facebook. So like, there's lots of different strategic benefits to having conversations like this and actually getting other people onto your content as well. Plus, it takes the onus off of you having to be the resource of knowledge, and you're basically awesome by default because somebody else is sharing their knowledge. So it's a super helpful way to create content. So any types of interviews, if you've been on stages, if you have talked at length about literally anything, that kind of stuff is great because it's educational. The things that you hear yourself say on repeat, those are the things that people want to hear. So those are assets that you can totally repurpose. Testimonial videos. I mean, literally any kind of video course content is huge because you can repurpose tiny snippets of that into teasers that then push people to want to actually look at the rest of the content and join the course. So video is a super simple one. Audio, really it's just podcasts, unless you're an author and you have audio books, we can also do those too. That's another really cool thing to repurpose. And then the text piece is what people don't realize. Like if you have a blog that you've been writing or contributing to or even if you're a guest contributor on blogs as an expert, you can take that content and turn them into social media videos. Like the problem with blog content is you usually like, share the link, and Facebook hates that. And you can't even share the link in Instagram. So what are you doing there? I mean, you can in your bio, but how are you going to get the content that makes sense for them to get there? You can take short snippets of text and create text motion videos. There's tons of really cool software that does it. We do it in our company, and you can turn it into like those Goalcast style videos with like stock video, stock audio, things like that. And then have your call to actions like, hey, to read the rest of the blog, the links in the bio or the links in the comments or whatever. So think of all of the written content that you have, and that by itself should be able to do a ton for your social media calendar. So I don't know, Josh, am I missing anything off the top?
Oh
I feel
man,
like
are
that's
you
a lot
kidding
of
me?
content.
End the episode now. That was
Right?
awesome. And that's the thing. And I want to just touch on a couple points you made there, because people think that, well, I don't have any content. Very few people literally have nothing. Everybody's done
Right.
something at some point in their life where they've written, or they've, like you said, they've spoken or been on a video of some sort. I love the interview format, just like you said, because if we do it here on Zoom, we have the video, the audio, and then we transcribe it. We literally have all three pieces of content, and I didn't even have to be cool. You were cool, right? And like you said, it just
Right.
makes me cool by association.
Welcome.
So
Here's
I
hoping
love
we're
that.
cool, but
I try to give hope for people for that reason, because the
yeah.
reason I love the interview style format is you're not the expert, right? The person that everybody's like, oh my goodness, the Russell Brunson, the Ryan Dice, right? Where they know everything. You're like, well, you know what? I'm just good at getting cool people. I like making friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're expert by default because they're getting the expert info from your content. So it's like,
Right.
it's a win-win for sure. I actually, before I started Repurpose House, was doing it. I had a company called Video Podcast Producers, and it's all I did was have clients who interviewed people for the point of cross promotion. Like that was it. Cause I was like, this is like a bonkers form of content that's long form. Like podcasting in general is awesome because you get their attention for way longer than any other form of content. It's just,
Right.
it's a great way to get started for sure.
I love it. Well, and this kind of dovetails into your process, right? Because you're saying analyze where you're at, take account and say, okay, this is actually what I have. And then what do you do? What do you do with that content?
Yeah. So one thing that I like to stress is that if you can break that content apart into numbers, the human mind does really, really well with numbers. And the reason for that is because when you go to repurpose content, let's say that you have a video about walking a dog, like you are a dog trainer and your video is the 7 things you're doing wrong when walking your dog. There's a lot of reasons why that's a great title for that video. First of all, again, the numbers piece. There's a lot of data that supports that people will continue to read, watch, whatever, if there are numbers, because once they have 1 or 2 of those numbers, the human brain just wants to close the loop. So they're going to watch more of the content. But the beautiful power out of that long form piece of content is now you have 7 little chunks that each of them individually are perfect for a little repurpose snippet. And then the cool thing is once you repurpose it properly, and there's like formatting, you want to make sure it's the right size for the platforms. You want to make sure it has captions because 85% of people on Facebook and Instagram are watching on mute and 80% on LinkedIn. So don't think that they're like smart people who will watch with the audio on. Everybody's just looking out, talking heads. So you have to have captions, making sure it's sized properly, things like that. But now you have 7 perfectly packaged, repurposed assets. And the best part about it is you can put a call to action on that. Like, hey, this is tip number 2 of 7 ways that you're walking your dog wrong. Go to this long form piece of content to watch the rest of it. And people will go. And hopefully you have that long form piece of content hosted somewhere on like your website where you can have a pop-up with lead generation, do like a really cool free digital download where you're actually gathering data and getting them off of the social media platform and into a way that you're able to continue communication with them.
See, and I love that. And you kind of threw it in there as a teaser, but I mean, the cool thing is that you're taking the content and saying, how do we make it cross promotable? And that's honestly been one of our big weaknesses in our company is that we make the content, and in order to really make it work, we have to put a lot of effort into making that post work, right? So you're saying, how do you make it so it's so easily cross promotable? So I know this is a little bit of a tangent, but I want to delve off on this for just a minute. How are you specifically getting people to engage with this content and to cross promote it?
Yeah. So there's a few things that are really helpful. So headlines. Headlines are going to be huge for you. There are so many psychological tricks when it comes to the headlines you put on your videos. Like when you scroll and you stop to watch something that has a headline on it, pay attention to what it says, because a lot of times it's a question. Like, are you doing this one thing that is crushing your revenue? You know what I mean? I don't know. Am I? Now I need to watch the stupid video to find out. I mean, you have to be strategic. There's a really cool article. Actually, I'll send it to you so you can share it. It is like a million different headlines were analyzed, and it's the top like 100 and the worst 100. And I was surprised by some of the worst 100, but there's psychology behind the top. And it's like, I think that the 3 words was like that you will. So if you can come up with headlines that were like the one thing that you will or that you will do to make money or whatever, it was like certain little small phrases that you could insert in headlines will make a huge impact. So headlines are super important. Making sure that they're formatted properly as far as size goes. There is a lot of data to support portrait size videos. Vertical video does really, really well, making sure that it's formatted properly for the different social media platforms you're on. Like if you're using TikTok, you may not want it like hyper produced. If you're using, LinkedIn, it may be a little bit different, things like that. And again, captions. If you don't have captions on your content, it will crush your engagement. So making sure that you have that on, and when I say captions, it's burned on, not like Facebook automatically populates the captions. You really have to actually put them on the piece of content. And then you can also like ask people to engage the way you want them to. Like, let me know what your dog walking favorite technique is in the comments. And granted, they may or may not get a ton of engagement, but people, if they like your brand and they feel like you're personable, they want to engage. So give them the opportunity to by prompting them with something specific that they can actually feel like they're contributing to.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, that was really kind of like 3 massive pieces, right? The headline, the captions, and then the call to action. That's been, I think, even for us, one of the big difficulties we've had in getting people to engage is, what do you ask? What do you say to actually get them to want to stay? And for most people, I think they're overcomplicating it, right? I know I am. So I love that you have that document. We will add a link to that if you do send it to us. If you don't, everybody's going to be really disappointed. So make sure you.
I know, I'll send it. I promise.
Make sure you remember that.
Yeah.
So I love it. Well, that's cool. So thank you for going off on that tangent for me, because that I think for a lot of people, that's going to be one of their big takeaways from this interview. So we've got the content, we understand kind of how to promote it. How do you multi-purpose it to where you're literally covering a year's worth of content with just the content you already have?
Yeah, you got it. So we've actually created a really specific science on it. And it's not, it's math, but math is science, I guess, kind of. I don't know. I'm a creative, so none of that really matters to me. But what I do know is that we have come down with a really specific solution. So you know how I was talking about the whole like, okay, it's a long form video, but it's 7 tips, right? If you create those 7 tip videos, you really only need to make 7 of them total. And those expand into, like, if you're able to take all 7 of those pieces, you're going to turn them into small video assets for all the different social platforms. You're going to do a vertical version, a square version, a landscape version for YouTube, all those things. And you're going to do little quotes, like little image quote cards on each of those. So really you're getting 2 posts across many different platforms for each tip inside of one video. So when you start to do the math on it, if you've got 7 of those, you've got 14 assets that are coming out of each long form video, and you can have them formatted properly for dozens of different platforms each. So what it came down to was it was at least 1 to 2 posts per week per tip. So you've got like weeks and weeks of social media content based on one video that you talked about, 7 very specific things that you're already talking about constantly anyway. So what we'll tell people, especially like, and if you already have content, like you're already there, you can see how your own content can multiply. This is like if you want to create it really strategically and super savvy, make your 7 pieces of content. Literally, as you're walking like around through the day, think of the questions that people ask you constantly and just have a running list on your phone. Like, oh yeah, that's a good question. I get that asked a lot. And then just sit down and go to film them with like a couple different shirts. Like, take a day, bang out all 7, and that's your base layer content. And then those can explode into literally at least 1 to 2 posts a week across all the different platforms on social for a year.
See, and that's, I hope people will take a look at that and apply it, right? I've heard so many different methodologies, but I think yours is so simple because it's not, you don't have to dig for the content, right? It's there. You told them where to identify it, right? It's the questions people are already asking you.
Yeah.
Take it, sit down, get a couple shirts and record, right? So what about the people who don't want to do the video content? What would you recommend?
Well, I mean, if they already have content, then just you have to really go through and think about what you've got, how you can break it apart. There's got to be little short up to 2 minute snippets of things that make sense to be standalone pieces.
Right.
And then ultimately, like if you don't want to, first of all, there's no excuse to not record video. Everybody has a phone that they can point at their face and talk about the things that they're experts on. So if you're super against it, you can repurpose the text stuff that we were talking about. You can repurpose blogs, you can do things like that. But ultimately, video is what really takes the cake on content. And selfie style video is it's like crushing highly produced video right now. So it's like if you're able to point a phone at your face and talk about something for a couple of minutes, you are already ahead of the game. Like it's no longer this game of everything needs a video producer and like super crazy graphics and intro logo in like ins and outs and stuff like that. You can get away with really simple video because people feel like it's kind of a window into you as a person, as a human, as opposed to a brand. So, and don't get me wrong, there's always a time and a place for highly produced video. My background is videography, so I don't want to like put that out there. But for social media content and for content that's going to be educational and stuff, like there's no excuse.
Delve in. And that's the thing.
Oh,
I completely agree. And the reason why I started interviewing first was so that I could get confident on camera, because you kind of get past that, well, I sound like an idiot on camera, or, I look dumb or have this weird quirk. You kind of get over it pretty quick, especially when people start liking and sharing your videos and you make money off of your videos. You're like, oh
yeah,
maybe I'm not as bad as I think I am. Right.
Yep.
So,
Money will definitely help that.
yeah.
Also, one beautiful thing about these phones, right, is if you hate the take you took, you can delete it. You're not live. So do a couple of videos, watch yourself, get super annoyed by the stuff that you do that you didn't realize you did, make changes, film it again. Like
Yep. I love it.
It's so easy now.
Yeah. And it's so funny because as you're saying, we've been seeing that same thing. I'm sure you know the statistics behind it, but the selfie videos are so far outperforming these professionally done videos. It's disgusting. I mean, if you watch, these people have spent $100,000 on this sales video, and then some kid gets on TikTok and talks and does something stupid for 50 seconds. He ends up making $100,000, and the $100,000 video barely pays for itself if they're lucky. It's just, it's crazy to watch this. And when people come, especially when I'm coming at it from a podcaster standpoint, and so many people come to us like, okay, well, what mic do I need? Like, why do you care? Nobody's going to listen to it. They're going to be watching it and reading the captions. And, the people who listen to it, they don't care about the audio quality. People, I mean, I moved into this office. We have like 12-foot ceilings in here. It's almost impossible to eliminate the echo, right? We can use the best mics in the world, and it still causes issues. And people are like, well, why don't you invest in this big studio? It doesn't affect our content. Nobody cares. Right. They can hear what we're saying.
Right. You could literally be holding a phone to your face and you'd probably get more engagement.
Probably. And
your arm's going to get tired. You know what I mean?
I'm kind of questioning myself now. Those stinking AirPod videos are killing me. I'm like, well, it's time to invest in some AirPods.
I know, I agree.
So that is awesome. Well, Shaina, I mean, we have covered so many different topics in this, but I hope people are taking these step-by-step instructions she gave them. Go apply it. This is something, if you'll go do this, you'll see your brand will take off. And when it comes to branding in general, it is about eyeballs, but it's also about creating quality content, not in the sense like we're talking about. It doesn't have to be quality video. Bring the information that you are super passionate about and bring it to the world. So Shaina, a couple of quick questions for you before we end the show here. Sure. First off, where can people access you and your content?
Yeah, so repurposehouse.com is going to be the main place. We've got tons of content from, cool blog posts. We have a ton of trainings. We've got courses on tons of different things, content related, business building related, stuff like that. So it's content heavy. You're going to find something that you're looking for. That's for sure.
I love it. Well, and I have to tell everybody, when I went onto this website, I was expecting to see these like ridiculously high prices. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but go check it out. I'm like, oh man, everybody should pay for this. And I'm not just saying that so you can buy from the show, right? I'm not receiving a commission for this. So make sure you go check that out. I mean, this is really, I was blown away. We spend probably double that amount for our own content. So make sure you go check that out. It's repurposehouse.com. And then finally, Shaina, just to finish it off, if you could give one final parting piece of guidance to our audience, what would that be?
Just don't be afraid of the blinking red light that says record. Just do it. And the hardest part for some people is like posting it and being afraid that, like you're saying, nobody's going to like it. You will be shocked at how excited people are to see your content. And also, if you mess up, that's good. People see human qualities in you. Like, I've just recorded videos at this point, and if I like trip up on words, I'll karate chop and do silly stuff to be like, well, it is what it is. That stuff does so much better than like feeling like a robot. So just be yourself, don't be nervous, and post it and see how it goes. I can promise you it's not going to be as scary as you think it is.